minutes next week or the week after. So I want to say first off, thank you to everybody on the committees who's making this happen. We're going to get a lot more business done at the committee level, so I appreciate that. Brandon, anything from budget?
The next meeting, we'll have a motion for approving our, a motion, I could have waited. For the fiscal year 15's budgets survey, and there's a, I guess you call it a strategic plan that we need to submit online. So we'll as an executive committee, we'll work on that. But we already submitted, or we already approved last meeting the budget, and that will be submitted and done once we get the roster. There's a few things that they need in order for full fiscal year 15 budget to be completed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Masker, bylaws and rules.
Yes, I have several agenda items here. The first, Article 8, Section B of the bylaws establishes a membership committee which maintains membership records. However, we've never really had a membership committee because we really don't have members. We have stakeholders, and those people are by and large members automatically just by the fact that they're stakeholders within the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. So we voted to strike that from our bylaws and rules because it wasn't pertinent, and outreach was doing part of that job, and our secretary did the other part, which was record keeping. So it was kind of a redundant article, so we voted to this comes from the committee. So I'm asking for an affirmative vote on this change to bylaws.
Okay, public comment on item 8.3.
Mr. Guzman?
This is not exactly on this one, but I'm just wondering, Mr. Mansker, why on the items for the report there's not the item regarding the discussion about creating a seat for landlords, and or what went on with that discussion and the motion that resulted from that discussion.
It did not come out of committee, so it is not on the, this is only items that came out of committee.
I'm asking you because you took a vote on it at the meeting, and I don't see it on the report.
Was not to bring it forth at this time, so there is no vote. There's no discussion.
Okay. Public comment on 8.3A1 regarding the recommended change to Article 7B of the bylaws. Sorry, did you raise your hand? Okay. I'm asking for public comment. Public comment. Mr. Brevet.
Thank you. I will, first of all, like to say that all 5 members of the bylaws committee were present, and of those 5 members, Eric, Jim Sumner, myself, and Bonnie Burst were all original members of this organization back to 2007 when we started our first term. And of those 4, Jim and Bonnie and I all participated in writing up the original bylaws. Therefore, there was some, shall we say, institutional knowledge there as to how far back this went. The language itself was adopted in terms of trying to establish a committee that would, in essence, do the same thing that the outreach committee is tasked with doing now. And any other duties, as Eric already said, would be handled by the secretary. As a matter of fact, we discussed this back in 2009, I believe it was December or January 2009, and we actually came to the conclusion as a board at that time that the secretary could take care of the routine duties that appear in the membership committee. So I would just ask you to recognize the fact that the language really is superfluous at this time. It's not needed, and anything that comes up in terms of stakeholder contact really should be going to the outreach committee. And if it's record keeping, it should be going to the secretary. Simply no need for this section in the bylaws anymore.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, board discussion. And Jeff, Cindy. Jeff, you go ahead.
All right. Quick question, no other comment. Do we as a neighborhood council have the right to just decide to strike things from our bylaws?
Yes, yes, there are bylaws. We wrote them.
Well, yeah, my understanding is when I was chairing the grievance council, questions arose that there are certain limitations and certain things that Dunn and other city entities require that we put in our bylaws or answer to them. So again, the question is, since we do have a skeleton, we do have an outline of what our bylaws must include.
Yeah.
Are we able just to strike anything we want?
I believe so, because we've never had one. In actual fact, we've never had a membership committee because we don't have members. We have stakeholders, and what we have is we have records of people who say they want to be contacted, but we don't. But everyone is a stakeholder and therefore is, by and large, a member. So, but it's the language really doesn't work for us.
And I believe this has been approved by them.
Yeah.
In consultation anyway. Right?
Has it?
Yeah. I mean, when we were organizing, we were trying to do everything right, but a lot of the stuff just fell by the wayside. There's a lot of rules being changed right now by Bunk, because as time goes on, you start formulating how things can work and work to its advantage. Those things that don't work are pushed aside. And this is one of those things that we had in our bylaws that it just doesn't work for anybody. So, but it doesn't stop us from having a list of people who want to be contacted, and therefore that's kind of like our membership. But everybody, we represent everybody in the Granada Hills South area. No matter what, we represent them. So what's the membership? You don't get a card. You don't get your name on a list or anything. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay. You brought this up. I'd like you to recognize people that realize that we have
Okay.
multiple of these.
Go ahead, Jerry. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, thank you. I think you may have already answered my question. So, my question was all the people who signed up, how do we consider them? But I think you already answered, they're not considered members, they're just considered stakeholders.
There's stakeholder contacts. Yeah.
Okay,
Who wish to be contacted, because we're not going to do anything else. Jerry?
I'm just going to answer Jeff's question, or at least part of it, having been former bylaws chair and having gone through the process of submitting revised bylaws to Dunn. So our bylaws do have a provision allowing us to amend them with a 2/3 vote. Dunn, of course, does have certain minimum requirements and structural requirements for the bylaws. So what my experience was is that we made the changes we wanted, and we approved them with a 2/3 vote. We sent them to Dunn, and in my case, they were all approved, but they would have the ability to come back and say, well, we can't approve this particular language, you need to change this or that, and send it back, and then we just essentially ratified with another 2/3 vote to include that language. Then we ratified it, or we voted for the change, Dunn's approved it, and then they go into effect.
Yeah, and Jared, just to be clear, both Dunn and the city attorney have already vetted this language already.
Yeah.
So it's been approved by Dunn and the city attorney's office in terms of all 4 of these changes.
Yeah. In fact, all of this, a lot of this is coming actually from Bunk, but we have to to physically change the bylaws and then let them know. Some of it, they've already said, you have to change your bylaws to this, this, and this. So we're doing it.
Eric, you have a stakeholder
Yeah.
comment that I overlooked.
Back when I was appointed to the bylaws resource team to help neighborhood councils deal with the revised template issue that all neighborhood councils were responsible for adhering to. At that point, and it still holds that the councils for the most part have complete autonomy in what they want to put in their bylaws. The single exceptions will be really the terminology. Most recently, the terminology that was enforced by Dunn in February to change all the bylaws consistently to represent the at-large stakeholders. Aside from that, basically the councils have free reign in terms of what they want to put in and what's appropriate, subject to approval by Dunn and the city attorney's office.
Okay, so closing board member discussion. This is coming from committee, so we don't need a second.
All in favor? Say, raise your hands. Okay, all opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we got 1301.
Okay, 13 and the abstention was
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Okay, we're to number 2.
Okay, motion for application for the bylaw boundaries to incorporate the area bounded by South Lassen Avenue, North Devonshire Street, East 405 Freeway, and I'm sorry, that shouldn't have said east, that should have been west, Balboa Boulevard. This came from a group of stakeholders in that area. And in fact, if you look on our planning and land use maps of the specific plan, this area is always part of Granada Hills. And they asked, and they have all their signatures, and I put together the package. This is the package we want to approve for our boundary change. In order for it to be ratified, we had to put this, I had to put this together, the application to change our bylaws, and that would increase the boundary change to the area bounded by Lassen to the south, the 405 freeway to the east, Balboa Boulevard to the west, and Devonshire Street to the north. We would incorporate that area, and the stakeholders in that area really did a bang-up job putting the signatures together. They did all the work. All I had to do was put the package together to submit to BUMP for a boundary change. Now, we've already voted in the affirmative, I believe it was back in August of 2013 when they came to us, and we voted not to oppose. But at this point, we're voting in favor of our boundary change to incorporate that area, and it will become part of Granada Hills South Council, those stakeholders. And this came from those stakeholders.
Okay, so essentially that's the motion coming from committee. Do we have public comment on this issue? Seeing none, do we have board member comment on? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My question is, I wasn't familiar with this, but my question is, what neighborhood council did this area pertain to previously?
It was North Hills West. Yes?
The boundary, official boundary for Granada Hills ends at Bull Creek.
What?
The official boundary for Granada Hills, there's a division that's between Balboa and Havenhurst at Bull Creek, dividing Granada Hills from Northridge, and this is taking that boundary all the way to Balboa, so I'm questioning the accuracy of those boundaries.
No, I got it from the city. I got it from the planning department of the city. In fact, I had to incorporate the planning department's map in here and to submit. I have the map of the Granada Hills Knollwood Community Plan in here. So, and this is official city map, so that's the area.
Okay, other public comment? Board member discussion.
Yeah, just a comment from the Realtor Board. We're often looking at what makes a community and what makes Granada Hills, and the boundaries. Now, it used to be kind of like zip codes, I would think, would be the most. But now our opinion as a neighborhood council and community opinion on, they're looking at having the neighborhood councils decide what the boundaries are, and the real estate people go by that. So it does influence who we take and who we don't. That means this part of North Hills in the future may be officially Granada Hills. So you should consider that before in all of it.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify this because I see some inquiring looks out there. There's actually 3 boundaries that I am aware of that we're dealing with. The Granada Hills Knollwood Community Plan has a certain set of boundaries, which actually includes this area from Lasson to Devonshire, Balboa to 405. It's almost like a little tang that sticks down in there. And I understand originally that area was considered Granada Hills. There was, back historically, there was a vote that was made to change that area to North Hills. Interestingly, even though the name was changed and the signs were put up, the vote in City Council actually did not pass. I looked it up and it didn't pass, but it went into effect anyway. The applicants ran into a little bit of problem when they went to city planning and discovered that. So the community planning boundary already includes this area. The notion of what Granada Hills as a city is, we voted on that, and there was a city council vote to change that, what was it, about a year ago?
Yeah.
A little less than a year ago. So that boundary was extended there basically to match the community plan, which makes sense. Puts them in alignment. This final one is the neighborhood council boundary. So we've actually got now, for the first time in a long time, we've got our neighborhood council boundary, the community plan boundary, and the community naming boundary all in sync, at least in that area. It's not actually in sync around all of our boundaries, but that southern border now is identical.
Yeah. And one other thing, the people in this area, their kids go to school in Granada Hills. Most of their shopping is done in Granada Hills. Everything that they do is related to Granada Hills, and in fact, they were shocked when they found out they had somehow got hijacked by North Hills, and they didn't like it. They came to us and said they wanted to change. They went out and did all the legwork. They got all the signatures, which I have here, more than 500. And they did all the legwork themselves because they said, hey, this is where we are, this is where we belong. And I'm pretty sure some of it has to do with property values. Granada Hills is a little bit higher than North Hills, but that can be argued. But if those stakeholders feel that way, who am I to tell them no? And it was, by the way, went to the city council passed it, went to Mitch Englander's office, he approved it. He's got a letter in here as well approving it. They did their homework. It was, so as far as I'm concerned, I think we should push this on to Bunk and let Bunk decide at that point. By passing this motion tonight, it will be out of our hands and in Bunk's hands. Yes, Cindy?
So just a point of clarification, I remember when we were here, they were asking, they were petitioning somebody, I think we just addressed that. They wanted to change the name officially from North Hills to Granada Hills.
No, they wanted to be in Granada Hills South Council. They're already in Granada Hills.
Right, well, no, I mean, right now their address says North Hills and they were changing it.
No, they're in Granada Hills.
Because you looked it up and they couldn't even change it because it was never supposed to change.
Yeah. But our last, the action by City Council a year ago officially renamed them to Granada Hills, even though they had never really been officially renamed to North Hills.
Yes. So, yes.
Two questions. Devonshire and right west of the 405 is, you're telling me is Granada Hills High School area and not Kennedy?
Kennedy is Granada Hills. Whether the kids go to Granada or Kennedy, it doesn't make any difference. They're part of Granada Hills.
Does this have any practical effect, one way or another?
For what?
Well, we're voting on something.
Well, they're our stakeholders. They'll come to our meetings. I mean, you know, they're Granada Hills residents, Granada Hills stakeholders. A lot of them come to our meetings anyway, and have been. So that's the only practical effect that I could really see.
Let me add to that.
Yeah.
I can be. We are taking on a block of new stakeholders there, so we have a potential new area to pull committee members,
Outreach
and board members from. But also, I think most importantly is it puts our boundary in sync with the community plan boundary. So whereas before, North Hills West was mainly concerned with their community plan, and they, when we could get their attention, they go along with changes to our community plan that particular stakeholder group wanted. But you know, now with this change, they will be represented by our council, which is fully immersed in the Granada Hills Knoll Community Plan. So it aligns the interests, I think, of that stakeholder group there with what our purpose, one of our primary planning and land use purposes are here on this council.
If there's no more questions, yes.
Just one statement. I expected John McGovern to be here from North Hills West. I brought it to his attention that this is going to be on the agenda. He's also aware that this is on the agenda for your mailing. There may be an issue with one or more of the board members living in that area.
John McGovern himself lives in that area.
And if it is officially declared that it's now part of Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council, they're no longer eligible to sit on the North Hills West board at some point. But by the time this gets processed, their term is only for a year, and they were just reappointed in April. So they're already 3 months into their current term year. It may be a moot point by the time this is approved.
Yes.
Just to speak to follow up with Mike, there is also a procedure that BOM can use to approve overlapping boundaries.
Yeah.
So, it is entirely possible that BOM could end up saying, okay, you both share the boundary, and that the neighborhood councils you could participate in both neighborhood councils as a stakeholder. That's within their power to do.
Anyway, yes.
There's one thing that I would like to add. You can look at it monetarily as well. We are given a set amount of money, right, every year. So if we add stakeholders, what does it actually do to our budget? Lowers it in a way, right? We're now representing more people, not less, with the same amount of funds. Hopefully we'll get some additional manpower, woman power from the area. So hopefully make up that and help, get them involved and get them familiar with what neighborhood councils and how they're represented.
Okay, I'd like to call a question if we don't have any more questions. Okay. That's right, we don't need to call a question. Closing debate. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that's 30. And all opposed? Abstaining? One abstention? So 1301 again.
Okay, 1301 with Mr. Board abstaining.
Okay, number 3.
Okay, the next, Ms. unanimously approved the application bylaw, okay, that's okay for allows neighborhood councils change on physical posting sites. Oh, this is for our posting. And neighborhood councils change from the 5 to 7 physical posting sites if the neighborhood council agrees to post one physical site on the website and to the early notification system. This would make it easier for us not to have to post the 5 to 7 physical sites around, which is becoming very difficult to do. And Bonk has said that we can adopt their rules for posting to the neighborhood council's website, the Empower LA's early notification system, and one physical site which we decided should be the chamber office because that's easily accessible and you post it in the window and people can come by and see it. Now, that doesn't obligate you not to post it other places. We encourage our chairs to post other places whenever necessary, but these are the ones that have to be obeyed, and so we want to adopt that posting by bump. So, if we have any discussions? Public comment? None? Board comments?
Does this change the time frame? It's also still subject to.
Yes. Same thing. Seeing no other questions? Okay, motion. The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners allows Neighborhood Council to change the 5 to 7 physical posting sites of the Neighborhood Councils agrees to post if the Neighborhood Council agrees to post at one physical site on the website and on the website. Motion was
okay. The motion is to post it on
one physical location, which we have decided would be the chamber, and on our own website and the neighborhood and Empower LA's early notification system. So, yes.
I would just probably change the wording here a little bit because it says.
Well, we're adopting Bunk's rules, so I mean we'll.
Well, I'd like to
It says
do it.
website, I'm just saying, if we send it to the early notification on Friday night, it's not gonna be, on the website by Monday.
Well, then we'll be in violation of the Brown Act if that happens. You have to post in advance of that 72 hours.
No, we're okay. I think last time when Casey was here, and also I went to a meeting when Casey talked about this, as long as we get it to them by Friday night, even though the meeting may be Monday at 10 a.m., we did our bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would just say, instead of, because what it says to me there is, and it's website and the Department of Neighborhood Department, and I would just probably say, as long as we notify the early notification. That's all it is.
This is their language.
Well, this is their language.
Not
We're
the
just
city
adopting their
attorney's
language.
office. Okay, we're not making this stuff up.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple of comments. I do want to read back the motion that is printed here and what you just said.
Yeah.
The motion is to post at one physical location, namely the Granada Hills Chamber of Commerce, and post notices of meetings on, I think that should be our website, and with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment pursuant to the bond policy. So the E&S is not specifically mentioned in this motion. Now, since you made mention of the Brown Act, I just want to clarify, the Brown Act requires us to make one physical posting that is accessible 72 hours prior to the meeting. That will be the posting at the Chamber of Commerce. The posting to the website is a done requirement. Also has to be done within before 72 hours to the meeting. The E&S, by Dunn's requirement, we have to mail it to the E&S address 72 hours prior to the meeting. They will post it to their E&S system when at their availability, which may be, I mean, it could theoretically happen after the meeting. Hopefully it'll happen as soon as possible.
But at least we will have
Bonk's policy.
Yeah, we will have did our obligation.
Yeah, I just want to say, these are the minimum requirements. None of this keeps us from posting 3 weeks in advance, like we can do. We have the capacity to. So I know at least for outreach, although we haven't had a meeting yet. That's one of our goals, is to post it so that it's out there 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
makes it a lot
it's no
easier.
later than 72 hours. Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor? Raise hands. Okay, I see unanimous. Okay, 14. Okay. Any abstention? Oh, well, it was already unanimous, so.
Well, we're pretty sure, but.
Any abstentions? Any no's? Okay.
Thank you. Motion's approved, unanimous.
Number four, the bylaws established a community outreach committee that reports to the board on a monthly basis. We wanted to change this language. Motion was unanimous to revise Article 7-1A regarding the community outreach committee to change the monthly reporting requirements to a regular basis. The reason we wanted to do this is we're volunteers. People have obligation, they have families, they go on vacations and so forth. Sometimes you can't have a meeting if you don't have a quorum. So by putting this language in, we could end up violating the Brown Act. So, but by saying a regular meeting, we're not tied down to that monthly obligation to a monthly meeting. In fact, a number of committees, like a bylaws committee, we don't meet every month. If there's nothing to meet for, just to get together for giggles and shits. I mean, it doesn't make any difference.
Strike that from the record.
So my feeling is that by loosening these reins, we made so many in our earlier bylaws writings. We just put things together and we tied ourselves up into a tight ball. So we just kind of loosened it a little bit. So all these committees that meet, especially the community outreach committee, is not saddled with the fact that they have to meet or they are in violation of something because they don't have a report. So that's the reason why we decided to strike that reference to monthly and change the paragraph to regularly. So is there any community speakers on this issue? Yes.
You might run into the question of what is the definition of regular versus if you just change the language to unnecessary.
Well, most of our committees do meet on somewhat of a regular basis. We try to have issues, but if we don't have enough issues, or if we can't field enough board members for whatever reason, people get sick, we're not paid. We don't, you know, even the city council doesn't always meet, yet they have committee meetings all the time, and they're not saddled with this, well, it says here you have to do this no matter what. And we're just giving ourselves a little leeway here. Yes.
Just so everyone's really absolutely crystal clear on this, nothing that goes on the general meeting agenda has not been vetted through done in the city attorney's office. Just so everybody's aware of that. So it may be a perfectly valid observation. The fact is, our council, which is, when I say council, it's spelled with an S, our legal counsel, Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, has vetted everything on this agenda. Likewise, Dunn, which is our governing board, through the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, and which is our paid staff, has vetted everything on here as well. So the reality is, this has been approved by people who are paid to approve such things. So, go ahead.
Yes,
yeah, I just like to comment, I think it's great that we're having discussions, even though everything, all the language is approved through Dunn, which is great. But I think it's important for us and also for the stakeholders to know that we're not just going by anything that's on the agenda, and that's already done behind the scene. I think it's great to have discussions, discussing about this, is that's why we're elected, to actually question or have clarification from them. So I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity of discussing and asking questions.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's how some of these changes came about, was people were wondering, how come this is this way and how come that is that way? And then, just a second, and what happens is we start looking at it and realizing, okay, this is language that was put in a long time ago, and it really has nothing to do with what's going on now.
Let me reiterate something that Brad mentioned a few months ago when he took the position. The point of having committee meetings is to vet all those things, have those fruitful discussions that Cindy's talking about at the committee meetings, so that when they come here, we're not having all those lengthy, fruitful discussions where a meeting that could take 2 hours will end up taking 3.5. So it is true, I think everyone will agree, fruitful discussions are great, ask the questions. But do that at the committee level. If you're that interested, then go to the committee meetings and ask those questions. That way, when everyone's here, and the public is invited to those committee meetings too, they're supposed to be there. These meetings need to be efficient. The committee meetings are where you can spend a lot of time talking about it. Granted, there are times when you can't make those, so you can ask those questions here. But I'm just wanting to reiterate what Brad had mentioned, and I think that's a very good advantage in having committee meetings, and we've been doing more of that this year.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Guzman?
You know, I was going to say something, and I didn't have to because Mr. Reed brought it up. And the point is you say regular, but there's no definition of regular, so what does that really mean? I think, and the discussion amongst the board after it's come from committee absolutely has to happen, and if it gets long because it's an important point, that should be okay. So, again, what does regular mean? Because that's really vague. You know, and I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, but the city attorney and Dunn are not always right when they vet something, and I will tell you about Northridge East Neighborhood Council after the meeting.
Call for a vote? Yes. Coming.
Again, I have to agree here. I think the language, regular basis, and even when you said, or Mr. Smith, that you already meet somewhat regularly, it's too wide open for my comfort level, and I think as it was also brought out, maybe Dunn did approve the verbiage, but again, as was brought out, Dunn sets forth the minimum standards. I would suggest, or make a suggestion, that instead of a regular basis, and without having to be the burdensome of being every month, that maybe something not more than every 3 meetings, or something concrete there where it doesn't have to be a monthly, but there's some kind.
Are you asking for an amendment to the motion?
Sounds like.
Sure, why not? Let's
Well, then make an amendment to the motion.
Move to amend the motion.
To what?
To having a, let's see, that the shall report to the board, not less than 4 times per year. Or if you're more comfortable with the verbiage, at least once every 3rd meeting.
You gotta settle on one or the other.
Quarterly.
Quarterly?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
You have to have a second. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Now you can ask discussion and comment, all that good stuff.
Any discussion?
What is the penalty? No, you're part of the board, you're not doing the work.
Oh, since I seconded, I like having a better definition, and you know, I defer to Mr. Bohr as a professional in the law, that you know, it is vague. The question really on this amendment, I think, is the 4 times per year or the quarterly requirement too restrictive? or is that going to be a problem? So
Well,
is it-
again, I said not less than.
okay, yeah, not less than 4 times.
Right. If the board believes or committee believes that something needs to be brought to the attention of the council before that third meeting, then I assume it would find its way onto the agenda like anything else.
Well, this, remember, this does refer to the Community Outreach Committee, which actually has met every month.
No, we
Well, you haven't?
haven't. No. We haven't met once since we started.
Ouch.
Really?
And that's 3 months.
They didn't need quorum last time.
Or you didn't
No
have?
quorum, we had agreements on the one before, and the one before we didn't even have the addresses together. So,
That's actually an interesting point, though, if they can't be,
Running foul, that's why the regular was in there.
yeah, and I think that's why they did this.
Yeah.
So the monthly meeting, things can happen with 1 month, but within 3 times, we should be able to have a meeting.
Okay, so you agree with the?
I agree with the
order. Okay. Okay, anyone else speaking in favor?
Well,
Dave?
just a public comment, I have to agree that the wording regular could, it has different meanings to different people. The fact that you say no quarterly doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a meeting. If you have no business, it just means that, and bylaws is a perfect example, the chairman was to simply report at their quarterly report, we've had no business come before the committee, and we'll give another report in 3 months. Simple as that.
Yes. Just as an observation, everyone realizes we have committee report agendized on every single monthly meeting agenda, right?
Yes.
No one's missed that, have you?
Nope.
Okay? The fact is that if you go through, the fact this actually is a committee report that we're discussing right now. If you go through the monthly agenda, we have a report from the committee chair from every single committee. So, to be quite frank about it, it doesn't make any difference. If a committee chair has something to say, they'll say it. If they didn't do anything, the report's going to be, we didn't have a meeting. All we're trying to do is simplify the bylaws. But, go for it.
Right, I understand that, Brad, but we're making a motion on changing the bylaws, and we're trying to make clarification, in essence, because we haven't had a meeting.
The maker of the motion is supposed to be running.
Yeah, obviously.
Mr. Bard, I'm just saying that you asked the questions, like, for, against.
We haven't voted on the motion.
We haven't voted.
I haven't called for a vote, I'm listening to what everyone is saying. It seems
Well-
like mostly everyone is in agreement.
I just don't want you to, I don't want you to feel like your power's been usurped.
Yeah.
It's your motion, you're supposed to be running.
Never.
Okay.
So you're aware,
Then continue.
so you're aware to Brent's point that it's report. I didn't even catch that.
Well, yeah, of course it is, that's why I circled over here. They may be doing what, anyone can be doing what they're doing in committee, but this addresses a report on what they're doing. Even if the report is, we have nothing to report, there has to be some kind of outline that says a report must be made at some point. So is there any more comment? I'm gonna put it up for a vote.
Put it up for a vote.
All those in favor of changing the bylaws so that
First, we're voting on the amendment.
No, wait a minute.
This is a
For-
vote on the
It's a
amendment.
vote
On the amendment, we're voting just for your amendment.
all voting on my amendment to change the verbiage to shall report to board not less than on a quarterly basis. All those in favor, please? Do I count 11 correctly? 11 yeas?
I count 10.
Place.
Okay, let's get all the hands up for.
1, 2,
Arthur
3,
makes-
6,
Arthur
7,
makes
8,
11.
9, 10, 11. 11.
Arthur makes 11.
All those opposed? Count 0. Abstentions?
Raise your hand.
Okay.
So we got 11-003, hang on, we have to announce the names of, we have to at least announce the names of the vote, that's the Brown Act requirement. So, it was, all voted yes, except for Brad, Jeff, and Jet, sorry.
Jeff Dunlap, Brad Smith, Eric
Master abstained.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Now we're back to the vote on changing
The amended motion.
the amended motion.
Main motion.
The main motion, regarding community outreach committee to change the not less than quarterly reporting requirement to a regular basis. Let's just strike that. Okay, so the motion regarding community outreach that not less than report not less than quarterly per year. I guess that's it. Yeah. Came out bad. But that's what it is. We're going to meet. They have to report at least quarterly.
You want me to?
Yeah, restate it.
Okay, the motion is to change the monthly reporting requirement to a not less than quarterly requirement. And then the parenthetical, C, line 5, shall report to the board monthly, strike all references to monthly in the paragraph. Sentence should read, shall report to the board on a not less than quarterly basis on its outreach efforts. Poetry.
Vote? No, we don't need a vote. This came from committee.
Well, we don't need a second, but we need a vote.
Yeah, we need a vote, but we don't need a second.
Okay, don't we have to have a second?
No.
No, it's already been seconded.
It's already been seconded.
It came from committee.
Yeah.
But the amendment.
All in favor, raise your hands. Looks unanimous to me.
Oh, missing Jeff.
Oh, okay.
I'm not voting right now.
Okay.
Okay.
How many do we have?
13.
13.
Opposed?
13 opposed, 0, and abstention, 1.
Okay, unanimous, Jeff Dunlap.
Okay. It is not unanimous. 13, 0, and 1.
Okay, no, it is unanimous, except we have an abstention, I believe that's how it works. As long as there's no vote.
It's 13-01.
Yeah.
That's what I said, 13, 0, 1.
Eric, thank you for your hard work on that, appreciate it, I know it was not a joyful experience. Okay, monthly report from the Education Committee by Sally Polstead. I know you have a meeting coming up.
I have a meeting on Thursday.
Perfect.
Starbucks at 7.
Great.
For those that are on the committee, if you can't make it, let me know. If you can make it, let me know. Pardon? On the Education Committee? Starbucks next Thursday at 7.
Which one? Which Starbucks?
The one over here on Zells and Chester.
Okay, thank you. Item E, Jim, report from Outreach.
Outreach. I could say we haven't had a committee meeting yet, but we're gonna look and shoot for one, a permanent time at the 3rd week of the month, okay? The 3rd week of the month. And then I have to go with my outreach committee and see who's there. There's a lot of things we have to do for the next meeting that Dunn wants us to do. One is kind of solidify an outreach plan, add to the strategic plan, and then we have to talk about our database and contact list. As far as other things going on, we have the summer movie night. Brad, if you want to talk about that.
Sure.
And we also have the street fair to talk about if we're going to participate in that. We are. And other participation events. But we also, in the meeting, we're also going to go down and look at our planned outreach events. We're going to have to go through that. And the ones that haven't gotten us people or membership, we should consider just striking them out. I don't care how long they've been there. And the other ones that do get us people, we'll consider other new ideas, including the food truck night. Okay. So our next meeting, third week, not this next week, but third week, okay?
Any particular day or all week?
Depends on what it depends on what the committee members have time to do. Now, all our committee members have busy schedules, so we have to put together, we have to have this.
Okay, if I can speak to something really quickly that Jim touched on. We have a summer movie night every year. Jeff's done a great job with that in the past. One of the things that we've discussed a little bit just is to try and do something a little more with it. We're already, generally we've always done a movie night over the summer. And if we can connect with some of the organizations in the community, we might get some additional turnout and potential involvement in the organization. So the thought, and we've had some indication of support already from both high schools, Granada Hills High and Valley Academy, also from the Chamber and from at least Rotary among the service organizations, would be to have a summer movie night on Labor Day weekend. In fact, August 31st. Everybody's out of town, we're out of town anyway. But those of us who are still in Granada Hills on Labor Day weekend, it might be a fun weekend to have the event. It will be a Sunday, so actually it's not one of those things where kids will be going to school the next day. So we know both the high schools will be back in session. So, and we already had some discussions. Both schools have said they would be interested if we get the event set up to have one or more of their music performance groups come out. Give people something to look at while we're sitting at the screen waiting for it to get dark enough. And actually the park has already agreed to that date and the only thing they asked for us was for them to be listed as co-sponsor. So the nice thing about this is nobody does anything on Labor Day on this side of the valley. Obviously 4th of July is up in Porter Ranch. That's their big event. Earthquake preparedness, that's later in the year. Labor Day is pretty quiet actually. So it might be a nice day to do something out of the ordinary, or at least try, see if we get more people than for the usual movie night. I believe we already have money budgeted for the movie night.
Yeah, and the rental of the conflict is free, per my agreement with the
Thanks to Jet putting the arm on his contacts.
Yep.
It really comes down to a matter of whoever's going to be here Labor Day weekend and not off somewhere. It would be nice if you could agree and get in touch with Jim to come out and be part of the event. It's always a fun event. We usually, in the past, we've done a popcorn booth. Movies are almost always, kids' movies. There are a lot of people who just are at the park on those days anyway, who show up, and we advertise, we list it. So having said that, we have the date, we have a location, we have potential community partners, and it's not going to cost us anything. This to me would seem like a pretty reasonable outreach event. So I would be really encouraged if everybody who's not going to be out of town would make it. And Jim is the chair, he's the man, get in touch with him.
What you mentioned, I think you said money has been budgeted. We only have 3 items that has actually been approved, carried over from last fiscal year, and the movie night's not one of them. But we do have the general outreach that could be approved, but we'll need to do that next meeting in time for Labor Day.
Well, I think the biggest single expense is always the movie, and that's essentially been taken care of anyway.
The screen has been taken care of. The conflicts of rental licensing has not been taken care of. You have to pick the movie because rental licensing varies. Yeah, it's then 100 to 500. It depends on the movie.
Jim, did you work with Jim and get that?
You do have the contact though. I did send you the contact us for that.
And then of course popcorn, right?
You know what? I'll front the popcorn if we have to. Okay.
No, well,
Yeah, but
no, why not?
we got
Okay, yeah, all right.
You don't need to.
So
To
if
be
you
honest, it usually, all of those contracts have been sent, but
Okay.
we also usually refill the tchotchkes around the same time, the giveaways, going into a movie night, because that's our single biggest giveaway.
we have a lot of material in the storage locker.
Okay, good.
And this
I
one
know there's
actually,
some things that we've talked about when David was still there.
I was actually thinking this would be a chance to.
I'm definitely not volunteering to do anything myself.
Great, thank you.
I just want to go for that something.
Can I just mention,
Sure.
it's just to go quickly, the 3 items, just so the board is aware, it is already in the budget report, but I didn't mention it at my turn. We have up to $500 for the CERT class, up to $285 for the band permit fee, because that hasn't been paid yet, and up to $500 for our business cards. It's all 85. That's already encumbered.
Okay. Jim, anything else you need to grab your report there?
No, just that outreach is really important, and we also have to work with our webmaster, to see how we can get more, stakeholder input. It's kind of limited on that. And I do like the idea of the movie night, because if you look at what we have, most of the stuff, our events are not, Granada Hills South generated. They're not really ours. They're just something that either we're helping the council out, which is okay, but it's nice to have something to yourself. Like Granada Hills North has their summer social. That's their big contact party. This would be nice. We need one nice contact party a year, I think, at least.
Okay, so Jim is the man when it comes to the Labor Day movie night, picnic, potluck, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need,
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, yes, ma'am.
Oh, do you guys have the media or?
No, we don't have that.
Oh.
I'm trying to pick one that hasn't been played in the last 3 movie nights by Cal State Northridge or Northridge.
There's a lot of weird things too. Disney won't let you release a film during a film release, so will some other studios. So I'm forwarding you both again, that same email.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, Jerry, planning and land use, go to it.
Thank you. Planning and Land Use Management Committee met last week, and we have a motion to support the AGF ordinance, that's the above ground facility ordinance, as drafted by the city attorney, which includes provisions for notifications to property owners within 250 feet, affected neighborhood councils, HOAs, and residents group, and also requires design elements to minimize the aesthetic impact of the facility. So just by way of explanation, how this came about was the wireless carriers, various wireless carriers are getting a little more desperate for space, and they've begun using their ability or their power as a public utility to take over the public right of way. So what they'll, in the worst cases, what we've seen is they'll go to a small power pole that might be just supporting lines coming into a person's house, and they'll attach their equipment to that pole, which actually means they take the pole that what was a 20-foot pole, they take out and put in a 40-foot pole with these huge antenna things that they kind of hang off the side. It looks like a big old-fashioned telephone pole with these weird things hanging from the side. They'll dig into the street under the sidewalk and put I think the cabinet's something like 17 feet long and 10 feet wide and around 8 feet deep, with blowers and grates on the sidewalk. So imagine out, and this has happened to some people here in the local area, you just have to drive down Woodley near Plummer, just south of Plummer, to see one. But outside the window, and the blower's going, and you've got these big ugly antennas where there used to just be a small pole. And I went out to one a while back and stood over it, and my shirt was flapping up like this. It was kind of a Marilyn Monroe, well, almost, except I didn't have a red dress on.
This is exciting.
But, yeah, it was the amount of noise coming out of it. I couldn't imagine hot summer night. The resident has their window open, and this thing all night long is still trying to cool the equipment cabinet. So, not a pleasant thing that's happening. We were very fortunate to head off. I think 3 installations now in our Granada Hills South area, but that took a lot of activism on the part of the community to head those off and a little bit of luck. So what allowed this to happen is that the above ground facility ordinance was deficient. What the above ground facility ordinance is all about is when AT&T wants to come and put a little phone cabinet or a little gas meter thing in front of, on the sidewalk in front of your house, because that's where it needs to be, they can come and do it. And there's some minor requirements for size and so on. All they notify is the immediately adjoining residents. It was not a foreseen use of this ordinance to convert a telephone pole into a cell site. So this is an update to the ordinance that recognizes that the utilities are now doing this, and it increases the notification area to 250 feet, and also the neighborhood council. So it's a more proper notification of the people who might be affected by it, and also brings in some design elements, which we didn't have before. before, it only had to meet the utility requirements, which is basically make it look like an ugly utility pole. That was the kind of the requirement they had to go by. This new ordinance will encourage them at least to make it look like something a little more acceptable. So that is our motion from committee. Any public comment? Seeing none, board discussion. Jeff?
I've not only seen everything you described, but near where we live on.
You see me standing on the?
No, I'm the one who brings the fan. But now I'm all hot. Aside from that, what I was going to say is that they've added somewhere around 5 to 6 lines on just the regular poles, like in San Diego, or some of the areas where they're busier streets, and they just keep throwing these things up. And like I mentioned last time, they're now not just going across the 4 lines of traffic, they're crossing traffic. So this has just become a rat's nest. I mean, if you guys ever notice it, and some of you have backyards where you're looking into an alley or something, they also leave the excess wire, which is just so hideous. I mean, it's really making the skyline of the valley. I mean, and maybe you don't notice it, now you will, but it's really shocking. I mean, and I looked at pictures, my parents have a house that faces the alley on Ludlow, right behind it is between San Fernando. And they just keep caking these wires up, and this is not what these poles were originally intended for. Somehow the cell phone companies and Verizon, when they started doing fiber, they did more of this, and now AT&T is going to be doing fiber, so they'll have their regular coax lines and then fiber lines. And the newest thing I've seen, and I don't know, I can tell you the streets that I've seen it on, are blinking red lights. And I cannot believe, and these are right up against people's backyards, and one of them in Granada is north, right off of, I think it's like Laurel or something like that. It's facing the folks' fence, over their backyard fence, and it's Granada north, so why do I care? But it's but the point is that I saw another one recently in the valley, and I don't understand how this, and maybe you know better. It's like if you have blinking lights facing your house and these wind disruptions, how is that this not being a bigger issue?
Well, let me answer the question. First of all, that this AGF ordinance provision doesn't actually address any of what you talked about. Unfortunately, the additional lines going on the poles, it's state level regulation. But it's a good point, because there have been in other parts of the country, and I think even in our state, there have been large-scale utility pole failures due to overloading, and when you get back east, they get into the ice. But we've got the winds here. Unfortunately, this ordinance doesn't address that. It does address the conversion of the poles into cell towers.
What I just see, and I'm just kind of adding this, and I know it's not really speaking to this, but what it looks like is just this free-for-all, where we can tack everything on these poles, let's go for it, and they're worried about getting more customers and broadening their base. I work for a company that did this, so I know what they do. And they have no consideration for what's doing to the neighborhoods. And I keep thinking, you're not going to put another line on that, are they? And it's so, with these blinking boxes, I mean, I'm hoping someone will finally go, these things need to be buried or be out of, eyesight. It's just awful.
So Jeff, we can't go as a yes vote on this?
You can.
When Jeff was talking about that light, I believe that's a safety condition for low-flying aircraft.
No, it's about 6 or 7 feet up. So
only 6 or 7 feet up?
Yeah, like basketball player.
It's a box with some little antennas on it. Lights or some status light.
I think it's AT&T and Verizon's next move as far as having global Wi-Fi.
It's mind control.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Other board discussions. Seeing none. We'll take a vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, can somebody account for me?
13, 14 with you.
Okay. And any opposed? Any abstentions? That's 14-0-0, unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Russ.
Okay, I'm going to strive to get us all right, so the RRFB, which is the rectangular, what is it called? The rectangular rapid flash beacon was installed at Yarmouth and Chatsworth, right? A lot of hoopla, it's very nice. We were trying to protect the citizens during the Rub Fest. And I think it is a safety improvement. However, I'm gonna say a week after it was put in, my daughter and I stood on the corner and watched kind of what was going on with the beacon. And you would see pedestrian after pedestrian walk up and push the button. The blinkers would go on, the lights would flash, they'd step out into the crosswalk, and the cars would still keep going, right? And then they'd get closer to where the cars are still going, and then somebody would finally stop and go, come to a halt. And then they'd walk across. And I took it upon myself to actually video it. So I've got a video, 14-minute video, and there are roughly 5 near misses. One where there's a person pushing the baby carriage, and the car just goes right past them. So what we did as a safety committee is we reviewed a little bit of review of that video. We talked it over. And I had brought this ahead of time. So what I want to do, I'm going to read this quickly. I want to read this so everybody understands what we're doing, what we're voting for. This is a letter that's going to go to Mitch Englander's office. It's also going to go to Tanya. It's going to go to Megan Cartier. It's going to go to Ken Frusman, who's our engineer. And I think that the work that they've done to put it in was outstanding, and the fact that they did it so quickly. But this is what I would hopefully like us to say to them. Granada Hills South Council, South Neighborhood Council, formally request the Councilman Englander's office and the Los Angeles Department of Transportation continue the great work they have done at the intersection of Chatsworth Street and Yarmouth Avenue in Granada Hills. On March 7, 2014, a pedestrian was struck by a vehicle at that intersection of Chatsworth Street and Yarmouth Avenue while attending the Granada Hills Club Festival. The GHSNC requested action from multiple agencies within the city of Los Angeles. The agencies included the Los Angeles Police Department, the Los Angeles Valley Traffic Division, Councilman Englander's office, and the LADOT. Councilman Englander's office and the Los Angeles Department of Transportation provided that action by placing a rectangular rapid flash beacon at the aforementioned intersection on May 9th, 2014. The GHSNC requests that Councilman Englander and LADOT continue to improve the safety of the crosswalk at Chatsworth Street and Yarmouth Avenue by placing an additional protection at that crosswalk for residents and guests from beyond Granada Hills as they enjoy our part of the city of Los Angeles. We suggest that the additional protection be in the form of in-pavement lighting or above crosswalk lighting to be used in concert with the RRFB. On June 27th, a video traffic and pedestrian survey was performed by a member of the GHSNC Public Safety Emergency Preparedness Committee during the Granada Hills Grub Fest. The video survey captured pedestrians and vehicles at the newly installed RRFB. During the 14-minute survey, it was noted numerous times that vehicles did not stop when the RRFB was activated and pedestrians were crossing in the walkway. The 14-minute survey reported, I think I have that twice in the letter, and that doesn't work. It's straight. It has been noted by the GHSNC that the RRFB is a safety improvement